Hi, and welcome again to Magnolia High School's PSAT 10-Day Challenge. Today's day 7, and we're winding closer and closer to the testing date, which again will be next Wednesday for you guys. So today we're going to look at two specific types of questions that you can get on the PSAT reading section, and we'll be going over those in detail and some strategies to help you. Okay, so there are three basic types of questions you get. One of them is a detail question where you'll be given some specific line numbers or a range of line numbers to look for the answer. And these questions tend to be the easier kinds because I call them point questions. You can literally take your finger and point directly to the answer that's in the document or on the text. The other two types of questions are a little more difficult, and those involve global types of questions as well as command of evidence questions. So I'm going to show you a QR code that'll take you again to the Kaplan site where you can practice some of those, and we'll be going over those in a moment. So here's the QR code if you want to snap a picture to kind of make sure that you can get to that site and work on these. Now through this Kaplan site, you'll notice again on the sides you have lots of places where you can go for practice. And the key to doing well is to practice and look at the types of questions that you're asked. The more you can do this, certainly the more comfortable you become taking the test, the less anxiety you have taking it, and the more likely you are to score well. Okay, so the first question we'll look at is called a global questions. And global questions usually require you to identify through inference some information. They ask you kind of a big picture of the reading. So for these types of questions, it's not as simple as like putting your finger on the answer. You really have to have kind of a general and fairly decent understanding of what the passage, what the central idea, what the purpose, maybe even what the theme might be of that passage. Because it's not a big or a specific detailed question, the global questions you may be able, or you should be able to answer without having to reread the passage several times. Sometimes when you're looking for those specific details, it's almost like a treasure hunt to find it. But the general questions, the global questions, are not meant to happen that way. So as you're taking notes on your test, one of the things you can do is know that you're going to get likely 1 to 2 of these types of questions. So be on the lookout for the big idea of the passage. For example, you may be asked to decide which of the answer choices provides the best and most correct summary of the passage. This, of course, requires you to understand the passage, but it also requires you to put into your own words what that summary might be. Now, the other type of questions that might be a little more difficult are the command of evidence questions, and these usually come in pairs. So you'll get a question, you'll provide an answer for it, and then you'll be asked to provide an answer in the next question of where you can find evidence to support the correct answer for the previous question. So what you're looking for is, number one, what is the answer to the previous question? And then number 2, how will I locate information? Now be careful about making choices just because of proximity. So you don't want to choose an answer simply because it has a key word in it that you notice in the sentence stem or question stem. You've got to make sure that the answer you're choosing is, number 1, the correct answer for the previous question and not one of the incorrect answers. So this is one that you almost, to get right, you definitely have to get the previous question correct. So as you look at the practice episode, and we'll show you that, I'll show you that on the link, how you can practice this. It takes time to kind of understand how this question works, but I think once you see a couple of examples, you'll be able to kind of work your way through it. Okay, so now we're on the website, the Kaplan website. As you can see, they give you some basic information, but on this right-hand side, okay, where I've got my little arrow going down, again, these are all the resources you can get with different types of questions, and you can click on any of these areas to find examples. And again, this is where I would go. Look for those weak areas that you have. If command of evidence questions are your weakness, then you of course want to click into that and try to work some of those passages. So as you kind of work your way through, I'm going to get back into this document a little bit. You'll see that there's an example, and in this particular example you're given a passage to read. The passage is right here, okay, and you can kind of read through. I'll let you do that kind of at your leisure as you work through this. But you'll get to some questions once we get to the end there. There we are. And the first question says, Mr. Elliot is described as being A, monotonous and opportunistic, B, superficial, C, tasteful and classy, and D, weak and generous. Now, this is not a detail question, okay? This is definitely a question that you have to answer after having read the passage, because you are unlikely to see any of these words actually pop up in the passage. So this is one way that they have of testing vocabulary, but it's also a way of giving you kind of more a global question rather than a very specific detail question. Question 2, according to the passage, the family's life in the suburbs is described as. This is a specific detail question. You should be able to put your finger on one of these answers, and you'll notice that the answer choices you get are pulled from the passage itself. And then the third question asks you which choice best provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question. So you won't be able to answer this question correctly unless you answered this question correctly, the previous one. So that's kind of what they look like. And what I would do is I would work my way through and try to practice, like I said, as many of these as you can. You'll notice, let's come back to it. Okay. You'll notice again on the side here, you have these practice questions, okay, that are all set up there for you. Let me go back over here. There you go. Command of evidence questions. And again, you'll see if you click on that, it takes you to some information, and then you can get to some more links about how to take these practice tests. Okay, so that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll be back with day 8. Again, make use of the site if you can. The QR code I'll put back on the screen for you, and you can certainly get there and work from that to be helpful. All right, have a good day. Didn't want to do that.